There are smart parents who take out time to educate and train their kids in the right way. And on the other side of the coin are stupid parents, who usually have no idea what it means to properly educate a child. And like we said in our previous video, the line between great parenting and terrible parenting is a thin one. And you've got to make sure you don't tilt towards the terrible side. Well, not to worry. In this video, we will identify 15 ways stupid parents educate their children, and how you can avoid these mistakes. Let's get right to it. Welcome to Alux. Number 1. They don't listen. Stupid parents make the mistake of thinking their kids can figure out things on their own, so there's really no need to talk about it. They bark orders and simply expect these kids to follow them without ever explaining why. It's equally important to remember that little kids are very emotional, and when you don't listen to them, you create an invisible gap that grows wider as they grow older. So don't be surprised in the future when they aren't willing to share their challenges and pain with you. You never listened to them in the past. What are the chances that you will now? But you can avoid being this type of parent. Whenever your child is willing to talk, always be ready to listen, even if it means taking a short break from work. To also show your kids how much you care about them, you can ask them personal questions. Then reassure them that you'd always be there to listen, no matter what. Number 2, they use shame as a tactic. Kids love to be reassured of how much you love them, but stupid parents make the mistake of sometimes implying that they might not love their child, usually as a way to make them feel bad for their actions. Parents should never use shame as a tactic to punish their kids. They deserve to know that you love them in spite of their mistakes. If parents make kids feel ashamed to the point where they no longer feel loved, it's only a matter of time before they start feeling abandoned. Subsequently, this feeling spirals into adulthood, resulting in strong feelings of abandonment, which in turn could affect your child's relationships and mental health state. Using shame only provides a temporary solution, but its long-term effects could affect your kids negatively. Number 3, they allow their kids to do inappropriate things. We all know some parents don't stop their kids from doing inappropriate things, even when they are well aware of how bad it is. For instance, a parent might allow their 14-year-old kid to take alcohol, saying they would eventually take it in the future, so what's the harm in starting a little bit earlier? Not only is alcohol harmful for kids who are even 15 and older, it's also been consistently linked with risky behaviors, such as violence and addiction. We all know what you might be thinking. A sip of alcohol shouldn't harm a child. Well, it just might. This is because children metabolize alcohol faster than adults, so a sip would do a lot more harm to their bodies than that of an adult. Number 4, they spank their children. Spanking children has never worked. So what are the chances that it will work for your kids? Corporal punishment never works as well as love does, so why do we even bother? Spanking will only reinforce that you can solve problems through violence, and if this is your only way of solving problems, then it's only a matter of time before this pushes your kids to be violent themselves. Unfortunately, this wouldn't be towards you, but towards their siblings and friends. How to avoid this altogether? Do not spank your kids. Instead, correct them with love, and you'd see how effective this would be. Number 5, they are hypercritical. It's not an entirely bad thing to criticize your kids' actions, especially when you've warned them about it in the past. Kids can be quite mischievous, so we understand how frustrating it can be to always correct their actions. However, it is important not to become overly critical of your kids' actions. They have to know that it's fine to make mistakes, that they don't have to be perfect all the time. If you criticize every single thing they do, how would you expect them to believe in their talents and skills? Stupid parents think constant criticism will turn their kids into thick-skinned individuals who are confident and have high self-esteem. But it does the exact opposite. They doubt their talents because you made them doubt it every hour of their childhood. Number 6, they keep their kids busy all the time. Parents believe that if their kids are busy all the time, then they are more likely to stay out of trouble. So these kids are either always on a sports field practicing or doing something that takes every hour of their time. Most times, these kids end up with no social life, and they're usually too tired to engage in other fun activities. In fact, some of these kids, now lonely and burned out, turn out to be bullies, expressing their frustration on other kids. Kids don't have to be busy all the time. While adults can afford to do that, kids are just too young to have to suffer through that. Also, you already know that keeping busy all the time isn't exactly healthy for adults. And for kids, it's definitely a no-no. Interestingly, some parents also try to make sure their kids never get bored. But kids are actually supposed to get bored. How else are they supposed to learn to be creative? Being bored will force kids to come up with creative ways to escape this boredom. And who knows? They just might discover an interesting talent. Number 7. They are inconsistent. In our previous video about smart parents, we briefly touched on the importance of consistency as a parent. Inconsistency is one of the major mistakes a parent can make. It could be inconsistency in communication, in listening, or even disciplining a child. You can't listen to your child today and then ignore them for the rest of the week. And then you want them to talk to you again the next week? Or you discipline them for bad behavior and then let them off the hook the next time for the same offense. This lack of consistency will consequently lead to a breach in trust, or lead to indiscipline, as the case may be. Number 8. They have unrealistic expectations. We understand that you want your kid to be the next Kobe Bryant. But did Kobe become a legendary basketball player as a kid? Definitely not. It took several years before he was even slightly regarded as a legend. There's steps to greatness, and childhood is usually the starting point. Don't expect your child to achieve insane goals at a young age. Give them time to learn and grow. Time to understand their goals and aspirations. And time to understand the importance of hard work and consistency. When you set the bar too high, you aren't improving the self-confidence of your child. Instead, you're setting them up for failure. And when this failure comes around, they would blame nobody but themselves. Number 9. They are always interfering. As a parent, you must know when it's right to take a step back, and when you've got to interfere in the affairs of your child. This is especially true for teenagers, as kids tend to want more independence during their adolescent years. Not interfering can help to develop your kid's sense of direction, and also teaches them to solve critical problems on their own. Rather than interpret your teenager's independence as rebelliousness, try to help them navigate this new world, and most importantly, know when they have to figure out things on their own. Number 10. They don't respect their children. Here is an example of bad parenting. A parent refuses to respect their kid on the basis that they are too young, saying, "I'm the one who should be respected, I'm the parent." Well, this person would be right about being a parent, but totally wrong about being the one who deserves respect. Kids are humans, and they deserve to be respected regardless of how old they are. It is typical for children to become disrespectful and impolite when they are disrespected. This suggests that the most effective way to get respect from kids is to respect them as well. Number 11. They yell at their kids. Nobody likes being yelled at, and kids are no exception. Yelling never solves the problem. It only makes the kids angry, anxious, or outright irritated. And guess what this will eventually become? Resentment towards the parent. You can never educate a kid through yelling. While it might seem like you're making progress, your kid might simply be doing the right thing only out of fear. So when you aren't in sight, they wouldn't hesitate to fall right back to that bad behavior you always yelled about. Number 12. They always say yes. Saying no to your kid doesn't make you a bad parent. But saying yes all the time might not be the best tactic in educating a child. We understand that you don't want your kid to be sad or feel like you don't love them enough. But it is equally important that you know when to say no to their requests. Kids would always want a new toy, new pair of shoes, the latest games. But it is 100% up to you as a parent to know when to cut back on the excesses. It's perfectly okay to say no sometimes. Meaning it's perfectly fine to turn down your child's request. Perhaps you think it's not the right time, or you want to teach them a lesson about value. Just make sure you don't give in to every one of your child's requests. Number 13. Stupid parents undermine their partners. Now, here's an interesting, yet horrible way that some parents try to appear as the better parent to their kids. Take, for instance, one parent disciplines a child for their bad behavior, But rather than back the judgment of the first parent, the second parent dismisses this judgment and tells the child not to worry. In no time, this kid will know the strict parent and the lenient one. And when they want something they know they shouldn't have, you already know the parent they'd ask. If one parent doesn't agree with the other parent's judgment, you don't have to make your disagreement known to your kid. Instead, let your kids see a unified front, and then discuss with your partner how best to move forward. Number 14. They project onto their kids. We understand that being human is a lot of work. Come on, you have to be the best at your job, make time for your family, and the bulk of this involves raising your children and taking care of yourself. This will naturally take its toll on you, and there will be days where you feel angry and frustrated. But no matter how bad you might be feeling, we can all agree that it's none of your kids' fault. So why then do they have to suffer for it? Never project your anger and frustration towards your kids. It will only make you feel worse, but also make your kids doubt your love, especially if this happens too often. Number 15. They compare their kids to other kids. You hate being compared, right? So why would you compare your kids with others? When you constantly compare your kids with others, you are more likely to demoralize them rather than improve them. Soon, they will start seeing themselves based on this person you constantly compare them to, and how they will never measure up. This will then affect their self-esteem and confidence, and can cause envy between the affected kids. Instead of comparing, try to understand your kid and what makes them unique. Afterwards, try to create a solution that will fit their personality type, and eventually make them better. And there you have it. 15 stupid ways some parents try to educate their kids. Now that you know what these mistakes are, we are pretty sure you'll do your best in avoiding them in your family, right? Hold up, did you watch this video up to this point? You know what that means. An extra tip for you. Here is the anticipated number 16. Stupid parents fight in the presence of their kids. Uh-oh. This is something parents should never do, no matter how angry they both are. The family is a child's first shot at socialization, so a home is their first school. When parents constantly argue and fight in the presence of their children, it's only a matter of time before this kid sees aggression, anger, and violence as the right way to solve problems. Now, you don't want that for your kid, do you? And there you go. Have you got some stories surrounding stupid parenting? We'd like to hear about it. Thank you for spending some time with us today. We are so glad you did. If you found value in today's video, please give us a like. Hit the bell icon to never miss an upload, and don't forget to subscribe.